I never thought I'd be standing at my grandmother's funeral at 26, clutching a letter I wasn't supposed to open until this exact moment. Eleanor Wright, the woman who raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8, had always been my rock, my compass, my everything. The funeral home in Portland, Maine was packed. Gran was beloved in our coastal community, former high school English teacher, library volunteer, and the woman who never missed a town council meeting. I stood at the podium, my hands trembling as I unfolded my prepared eulogy. My grandmother was. I started, my voice cracking. The faces before me blurred through my tears. Aunt Judith, Gran's younger sister, nodded encouragingly from the front row. My cousin Michael gave me a thumbs up. My best friend Tara, who had driven all the way from Boston, smiled sadly. I took a deep breath and continued. Eleanor Wright taught me that life isn't measured in years, but in moments of connection. She'd say, "Emma, we're all just walking each other home." The weight of the unopened letter in my jacket pocket felt like a stone. 3 days ago, as I was sorting through Gran's belongings in her modest Cape Cod-style house on Maple Street, I found it taped to the back of her favorite painting, a watercolor of the Portland Head Lighthouse. The envelope simply read, "For Emma, to be opened at my funeral." I'd respected her wishes, though curiosity had been eating me alive. What could be so important that it needed to be revealed at this precise moment? As I reached the middle of my eulogy, recounting Gran's famous blueberry pie recipe that won the county fair 5 years running, I decided it was time. My hands shook as I pulled out the envelope, its paper worn and slightly yellowed. "Gran left me something to share with you today," I said, my voice wavering. I carefully broke the seal and unfolded the letter. The first words made my heart stop. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But what I need to tell you couldn't wait any longer. I trust you to handle what comes next." My fingers went numb. The letter slipped from my grasp and fluttered to the floor. The funeral home fell silent. I bent down, scrambling to retrieve it, my face burning with embarrassment. As I grabbed the letter, I noticed something else had fallen out. A small, tarnished key. I stood back up, clutching both items, suddenly aware that every eye in the room was on me. The rest of my prepared eulogy forgotten, I continued reading. Aloud, "There's a box in the attic behind the Christmas decorations. This key opens it. What you'll find inside will explain everything. I couldn't tell you while I was alive. It would have put you in danger. But now you need to know. Trust only Judith with this information. No one else. I love you more than you'll ever know. I'm sorry for the burden I'm placing on you. Gran." The silence in the room was deafening. I looked up to see Aunt Judith's face had gone pale. My cousin Michael was frowning, confused. The pastor cleared his throat awkwardly. I'm sorry," I stammered. I didn't know what was in the letter. After the service, people approached me cautiously, offering condolences mixed with curious glances. The letter had disrupted the solemn occasion, leaving everyone wondering what secrets my seemingly ordinary grandmother had been keeping. Aunt Judith gripped my arm as the last mourners left. "We need to talk," she whispered urgently. "Not here. Come to my hotel room tonight. 9 o'clock. I nodded, still in shock. Tara drove me home, peppering me with questions I couldn't answer. What was that all about? What box? What danger? She asked. I have no idea, I replied honestly. Gran was the most straightforward person I knew. She hated mysteries and secrets. Back at Gran's house, my house now, I supposed, I headed straight for the attic. The pull-down ladder creaked under my weight as I climbed up, flashlight in hand, the mysterious key clutched tightly in my palm. The attic was stifling in the June heat, dust particles dancing in the beam of my flashlight. I made my way to the far corner where the Christmas decorations were stored in labeled plastic bins. Gran had always been meticulously organized. Behind the bins, just as the letter had said, was an old wooden box I'd never seen before. About the size of a shoebox, its dark wood was polished to a shine despite its obvious age. My hand trembled as I inserted the key into the small brass lock. It turned with a satisfying click. I lifted the lid. Inside was a stack of yellowed newspaper clippings, a small leather-bound journal, a faded photograph of a young woman who wasn't my grandmother, and a USB drive that looked surprisingly modern compared to the other items. I picked up the journal first, opening to the first page. The handwriting wasn't Gran's familiar looping script. Instead, it was tight, precise cursive. Property of Catherine Winters. If found, please return to 1427 Ocean Avenue, Portland, Maine. I frowned. Who was Catherine Winters? I'd never heard Gran mention that name. The top newspaper clipping was from the Portland Press-Herald, dated May 12, 1978. Local journalist missing after investigating corporate scandal. As I was about to read further, my phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Judith. Don't open the box until we talk. Important. Meet me now. I glanced at the time, only 7:30 p.m. Something had changed. Anxiety gnawed at my stomach as I carefully replaced everything in the box except the USB drive, which I slipped into my pocket. Whatever secrets Gran had been keeping, I needed a backup. As I locked the box and headed downstairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change forever. Gran's final words echoed in my mind. I trust you. Little did I know how much that trust would be tested in the coming days. The drive to Judith's hotel felt surreal. Portland's familiar streets now seemed somehow different, as if Gran's letter had cast everything in a new light. I parked my beat-up Honda Civic outside the Harbor View Hotel and texted Judith that I'd arrived. Room 312, she replied immediately. When she opened the door, I barely recognized her. Gone was the composed, elegant woman from the funeral. This Judith had removed her makeup, her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched a glass of what looked like whiskey. Did you bring the box? She asked without preamble. No, just this. I pulled out the USB drive. I wanted to see what's on it first. Judith sighed, a mix of relief and frustration. Smart girl, just like Eleanor. She gestured for me to sit at the small desk where her laptop was open. Let's see what my sister left us. I inserted the drive, half expecting it to be empty or corrupted after sitting in that box for who knows how long. Instead, a single folder appeared labeled Winters. Catherine Winters, I murmured. There's a journal in the box with that name. Who is she? Judith's hand trembled as she set down her glass. Your grandmother, she said simply. What? No. Gran's name was Eleanor Wright. Eleanor Wright was the name she took in 1979. Before that, she was Catherine Winters, an investigative journalist for the Portland Press-Herald. My mind reeled. She never told me. She always said she was a teacher. She was. After everything happened. Judith clicked on the folder, revealing several document files. Emma, what I'm about to tell you needs to stay between us. Your grandmother spent her life protecting you from this. She opened the first document, a scanned article Catherine Winters had written in 1978 about suspected toxic waste dumping by North Shore Chemical, a company that had operated just outside Portland in the 70s. Your grandmother was investigating North Shore Chemical for months, Judith explained. She had evidence they were illegally dumping carcinogens into Casco Bay. But before she could publish her biggest story, she received death threats. I stared at the screen, at words written by a grandmother I never knew I had. So she disappeared? Became Eleanor Wright? Judith nodded. The FBI helped her create a new identity. She had to leave everything behind, her career, her friends. The only person who knew was me. But what about my mom? Did she know? Judith's eyes filled with tears. Your mother was only 6 when it happened. Eleanor, Catherine, told her when she turned 18. And then your mother met your father at college. And they. She trailed off. And they died in a car accident, I finished. Judith wouldn't meet my eyes. Emma, that's what we told you, what Eleanor told you. Because you were 8, and how do you tell a child that her parents were murdered? The room seemed to tilt. Murdered? What are you talking about? The car crash wasn't an accident. The brake lines were cut. It happened right after your mother started looking into North Shore Chemical again. She found evidence that even though the company had been officially disbanded in 1985, the executives had formed a new corporation called Greenpath Enterprises. Same people, same practices, just a different name. I felt sick. Are you saying these people killed my parents because of Gran's investigation? 20 years later? These people have long memories and deep pockets. When Eleanor took you in after, your parents died. She moved to a smaller house, changed your last name at school, kept a low profile. She was terrified they'd come for you, too. My mind flashed to all the little oddities of my childhood. Gran's insistence on checking the locks twice each night, her reluctance to have our photos taken, the way she scrutinized every new person who entered our lives. But why tell me now? Why not take this secret to her grave? Judith opened another file on the USB, a series of emails dated just months ago. Because she found something new. 6 months ago, Eleanor discovered that Greenpath Enterprises is now Brightwater Solutions. They're planning to build a green technology campus on the same land where they dumped chemicals 40 years ago. Construction breaks ground next month, and no one knows the land is contaminated? Environmental testing was falsified. Eleanor had a contact at the EPA who confirmed it. Judith opened another document, a soil analysis report with sections highlighted in red. If they build there, thousands of people will be exposed to carcinogens. History repeating itself. I thought of Gran, dying of the pancreatic cancer that took her so quickly. Did she get sick because of them? Judith's silence was answer enough. The journal in the box, I said. It must have her original notes, and the newspaper clippings. Evidence she collected over decades, Judith confirmed. Emma, Eleanor didn't want to burden you with this. But when she got her diagnosis and knew she wouldn't live to stop this development, she decided you needed to know. What am I supposed to do with this information? I'm a graphic designer, not an investigative journalist. There's someone who can help. Eleanor's old editor, Frank Donovan. He still lives in Portland. He's the only other person who knows the truth. I stood up, suddenly angry. My entire life has been a lie. Gran wasn't who I thought she was. My parents didn't die the way I thought they did. And now I'm supposed to what? Take up Gran's crusade against people who've already killed to keep their secrets. No one would blame you for walking away, Judith said quietly. You could turn everything over to Frank and let him handle it. Eleanor just wanted you to have the choice she never did. I stared out the hotel window at the harbor lights reflecting on the dark water. Somewhere beneath that surface lay the evidence of crimes committed decades ago, secrets that had shaped my entire existence without my knowledge. I need time to think, I said finally. Be careful who you trust, Judith warned. And watch for black SUVs with tinted windows. That's how they followed Eleanor back in the day. I laughed hollowly. You sound paranoid. Paranoia kept your grandmother alive for 40 years, Judith replied, without smiling. Back in my car, I sat for a long moment before starting the engine. My phone buzzed with a text from Tara. How are you holding up? Want company tonight? I hesitated, Judith's warning fresh in my mind. Tara had been my best friend since college. If I couldn't trust her, who could I trust? Actually, yes, I replied. Could use a friendly face. As I pulled away from the hotel, I didn't notice the black SUV that had been parked 3 spaces down from me. Nor did I see it pull out to follow me at a discreet distance. I drove back to Gran's house, my house, with my mind racing. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I'd made a decision. I wouldn't run from this. Whatever the truth was, I owed it to Gran, to Catherine, To find out. I unlocked the front door and froze. The house was dark, but I distinctly remembered leaving the hall light on. And there was something else, a faint smell of unfamiliar cologne. Someone had been here. Someone might still be here. My hand hovered over the light switch as I considered my options. Call the police? Run? As I stood paralyzed with indecision, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Tara. Just pulled up outside. Why is your house dark? I exhaled with relief and quickly typed back. Power might be out. Wait there. I backed out of the house, pulling the door closed quietly, and hurried to Tara's car. We can't stay here, I told her as I climbed in. Someone's been in the house. What? Should we call the police? No police, I said firmly, surprising myself. Just drive. I'll explain everything. As Tara pulled away, I glanced back at the house that had been my home for nearly 2 decades. In the upstairs window of what had been Gran's bedroom, I caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow passing by the curtain. What's going on, Emma? Tara asked, concern etched on her face. I took a deep breath. Remember that letter at the funeral? Turns out my grandmother wasn't just a high school English teacher. She was an investigative journalist who uncovered a massive corporate scandal in the 70s. And now I think the same people who forced her into hiding, the people who may have killed my parents, are after her evidence. After me. Tara's eyes widened. That's a lot to process. Where should we go? I thought of Frank Donovan, the editor Judith had mentioned. Downtown. We need to find someone who can help us make sense of all this. As we drove through the darkening streets of Portland, I couldn't help but feel that my life as Emma Wright was over. Just like Catherine Winters had become Eleanor Wright all those years ago, I was becoming someone new, someone with a dangerous purpose. I trust you, Gran had written. Now I understood the weight of those words. Frank Donovan lived in a converted warehouse loft in Portland's Old Port District. Getting his address had been surprisingly easy. Tara's father was a retired policeman who still had connections. One phone call, and we had not only Frank's address, but the unsettling confirmation that the former editor kept a licensed handgun in his home. Are we really doing this? Tara asked as we stood outside the industrial-looking building at 10:30 p.m. Just showing up at some old journalist store with a conspiracy theory? It's not a theory if it got my parents killed, I replied, more sharply than intended. I softened my tone. Look, you don't have to come up. This isn't your fight. Tara rolled her eyes. 18 years of friendship says otherwise. Lead the way, Nancy Drew. The elevator was out of order, so we climbed 4 flights of stairs to Donovan's loft. I raised my hand to knock, then hesitated. What if he was in on it? What if Judith was wrong about who to trust? Before I could spiral further, the door swung open. A man in his 70s with a shock of white hair and bushy eyebrows stood before us, holding a baseball bat. Either you're selling something I don't want, or you're lost, he growled. Either way, it's too damn late for visitors. Mr. Donovan? I said. My name is Emma Wright. Eleanor Wright was my grandmother. The bat lowered slightly. Eleanor? His eyes narrowed. Prove it. I hadn't expected this, but I reached into my pocket and pulled out the tarnished key. She left me this, to open a box containing Catherine Winters' journal. The change in his demeanor was immediate. He lowered the bat completely and glanced past us down the hallway. Get in. Quickly. Once inside, Donovan engaged 3 separate locks on his door. The loft was spacious but cluttered, bookshelves overflowing, with volumes, stacks of newspapers, and a wall covered in framed front pages. A large desk dominated one corner, supporting multiple computer monitors. You know, I said, taking in the impressive setup. For a retired editor, you've got quite the command center. Who said I was retired? He gestured for us to sit on a worn leather couch. The newspaper business died, not me. I run an investigative news blog now. Small but dedicated readership. Tara and I exchanged glances as we sat down. Donovan remained standing, studying me intently. "You have her eyes," he said finally. Catherine's eyes, smart, observant. "Did you know my grandmother well?" I asked. "We worked together for 5 years. Best damn reporter I ever had." He moved to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of scotch and 3 glasses. "She was more than that, though. She was my friend. And I failed her." "How?" I accepted the drink he offered, though I didn't plan to drink it. I published her early articles on North Shore Chemical. When the threat started, I told her to keep pushing. He took a long sip of his scotch. "I didn't take the danger seriously enough. By the time I did, she had to disappear." "And you helped her become Eleanor Wright?" "I had a contact in the Marshal's service. Unofficial arrangement." He glanced at Tara. "Who's your friend?" "This is Tara. My best friend since college. I trust her completely." Donovan didn't look convinced but continued anyway. "Eleanor contacted me about 6 months ago. Said she'd connected the dots between North Shore, Greenpath, and Brightwater. She was gathering evidence for a story I could publish. She got sick," I said quietly. "Cancer," he nodded. "She knew she was running out of time. The last time we spoke, she said she was leaving everything to you. Said you had her spirit." I thought about the Emma Wright I'd been 3 days ago, freelance graphic designer whose biggest concern was landing a new client. That person seemed a lifetime away now. "Someone broke into Gran's house tonight," I told him. "And Aunt Judith said my parents' car accident wasn't an accident." Donovan swore under his breath. "Then they know you have the evidence. Have you looked at everything in the box?" "Not yet. Just the USB drive with Judith. But there's a journal, newspaper clippings, and a photograph of a woman I don't recognize. The photograph, blonde woman, around 30. I nodded. "Lisa Mercer, Catherine's source inside North Shore. She disappeared a week after Catherine went into hiding. Body never found." A chill ran down my spine. Tara reached over and squeezed my hand. "Mr. Donovan," I said carefully, "what exactly am I supposed to do with all this? I'm not a journalist or a detective." "You bring me the evidence. I publish the story," he said simply. "With Brightwater breaking ground in 3 weeks, the timing couldn't be better. Public outrage might be enough to force a proper environmental review." "And the people behind all this? The ones who killed my parents and may have given Gran cancer. What happens to them?" Donovan's expression hardened. "That's where this gets complicated. The CEO of Brightwater is Lawrence Preston, son of William Preston, who ran North Shore back in the day. So this is a family business," I said bitterly. "A family business with friends in high places. William Preston played golf with senators. Lawrence donates millions to political campaigns. They've got a former EPA director on their board." I stood up, suddenly restless. "So even if you publish, they might still get away with it." "Not if we have enough evidence," Donovan said. "Catherine, Eleanor, told me she had something concrete. Something that could bring down the whole operation." "The soil samples?" I guessed. "More than that. She mentioned recordings. Said William Preston had been careless in a conversation with her back in 1978. Admitted to the dumping on tape. And she kept this tape for 40 years? Converted it to digital according to her. Should be on that USB or in the box." I pulled out the drive. We looked through this with Judith. No audio files, just documents and scanned articles. Donovan frowned. "Then it must still be in the box. We need to get it. Tonight." "We can't go. Back to the house," Tara interjected. "Someone was there, remember?" "I have a key to Eleanor's storage unit," Donovan said. "She kept backups of everything there. Paranoid? Yes, but justified." As he moved to get his coat, My phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered on speaker. Emma Wright? A male voice I didn't recognize. Who's this? Someone who knew your grandmother. I worked with her on the Brightwater investigation. I looked at Donovan, who shook his head vigorously. My grandmother was a teacher, I said carefully. Cut the act. I know who Catherine Winters was, and I know Eleanor gave you her research. You're in danger. The break-in at your house tonight was just the beginning. How do you know about the break-in? Because I've been watching your house. For your protection. I'm with the EPA. Your grandmother contacted me months ago about falsified environmental reports. Donovan was frantically writing on a notepad. Don't trust him. If you're really from the EPA, what's your name? I asked. Daniel Mercer. My mother was Lisa Mercer, Catherine's source at North Shore. I was 10 when she disappeared. Donovan's expression changed to one of shock. He scribbled another note. Lisa Mercer had a son. How can I verify who you are? I demanded. You can't, not easily, and you shouldn't trust anyone right now, including me. But I can tell you that Preston's men will be watching Donovan's apartment by morning. You need to move. The storage unit isn't safe either. They've been one step behind Eleanor for weeks. I looked at Donovan, who seemed genuinely rattled. What do you suggest? I asked the caller. Meet me. Public place. Your choice. Bring whatever evidence you have. And then what? Then we finish what our mothers started. He paused. I have resources Eleanor didn't. Federal backing, witness protection if necessary. Give me a number to call you back, I said. After he recited a number, I hung up. Donovan immediately started typing it into one of his computers. Could be legitimate, he muttered. Lisa Mercer did have a son. Records show he works for the EPA now, in their criminal enforcement division. But this could also be an elaborate trap. What do we do? Tara asked. I took a deep breath. We need the box from Gran's house. Whether this Mercer guy is legitimate or not, that evidence is the only leverage we have. Too dangerous, Donovan objected. They could be waiting for you. They want the evidence, not me, I pointed out. As long as they think I might lead them to it, I'm more valuable alive than dead. That's not reassuring, Tara said. An idea struck me. What if we created a distraction? Something to draw them away from the house long enough for me to get in and out? Donovan considered this. I have a press contact at the police department. I could call in an anonymous tip about suspicious activity at Eleanor's storage unit. That might pull them away. How will we know if it worked? Tara asked. I have a police scanner app, Donovan said, holding up his phone. And he moved to his desk and opened a drawer. A few other tools. He pulled out 3 small earpieces. Two-way communication, military grade, left over from an expose I did on defense contractors. I raised an eyebrow. You're very well equipped for a journalist. In my line of work, preparation meets opportunity. He handed us each an earpiece. Tara, you'll drive Emma but stay in the car, engine running. I'll monitor police channels and alert you to any movement in the area. And me? I asked. You go in through the back door. Eleanor always kept a spare key under the false bottom of the ceramic frog by the garden shed. Get the box and nothing else. 2 minutes max. The plan was simple, dangerous, and our only option. 40 minutes later, after Donovan had made his anonymous tip, Tara and I were parked a block away from Gran's house. The street was quiet, no signs of the black SUV I'd seen earlier. Police dispatched a unit to the storage facility. Donovan's voice came through our earpieces. Area around the house looks clear on traffic cams. I still think this is insane, Tara whispered as she killed the headlights. Probably, I agreed. But my parents and Gran died because of this. I need to know why. I slipped out of the car, and made my way through the neighbors' yards until I reached the back of Gran's property. The ceramic frog was right where it had always been, and sure enough, the key was hidden underneath. The back door opened silently. Gran had always been meticulous about keeping the hinges oiled. I crept through the dark kitchen, using my phone's flashlight on its dimmest setting to navigate. 1 minute, Mark, Donovan said in my ear. Police have arrived at the storage unit. I climbed the attic stairs as quietly as possible, wincing at every creak. The box was right where I'd left it. I grabbed it, along with the journal and newspaper clippings I'd left beside it. Movement on the street, Donovan suddenly warned. Black SUV just turned onto Cedar Avenue. Get out now, Emma, Tara urged. I was already heading down the attic stairs, moving faster now. As I reached the main floor, I heard a car door slam out front. Back door, Emma, now. Donovan's voice was tense. I made it to the kitchen just as I heard the front door handle turning. Clutching the box to my chest, I slipped out the back door, not bothering to lock it behind me. I ran through the yard, staying in the shadows of the tall hedge Gran had planted years ago. For privacy, she'd always said. Now I wondered if it had been for security instead. I reached Tara's car and slid into the passenger seat, breathing hard. Go. Slowly. She pulled away from the curb without turning on the headlights until we were a block away. In the rearview mirror, I could see 2 men in dark suits entering Gran's house through the front door. We got it, I told Donovan through the earpiece. But they're definitely there. Come back to my place. Different route. Make sure you're not followed. Tara took a circuitous path back to the old port, and I kept my eyes on the mirrors the entire time. The box sat heavy in my lap, its contents possibly worth killing for. When we finally made it back to Donovan's loft, I placed the box on his desk. Now what? Now we find out what was worth dying for, he said, his eyes gleaming with a journalist's hunger for the truth. I opened the box and carefully laid out its contents. The journal, the newspaper clippings, the photograph of Lisa Mercer, and something I hadn't noticed before. A small voice recorder, the kind Gran used to dictate her grocery lists. Donovan picked it up reverently. This could be it. He connected it to his computer, and a list of audio files appeared on the screen. The most recent was dated just 2 weeks before Gran died, labeled simply, Final Statement. We gathered around as Donovan pressed play. Gran's voice, weaker than I remembered but still determined, filled the room. My name is Catherine Winters. 40 years ago, I uncovered evidence that North Shore Chemical was illegally dumping toxic waste into Casco Bay. When I tried to expose them, I was forced into hiding. I became Eleanor Wright. I thought I had left Catherine behind forever, but the truth has a way of surfacing. William Preston admitted to me on tape in 1978 that he ordered the dumping. That original recording is included here, along with documentation proving that Greenpath Enterprises and now Brightwater Solutions are the same company, run by the same family, continuing the same practices. My granddaughter Emma is now the keeper of this truth. To whoever is helping her, protect her as I could not protect my daughter. And Emma, if you're listening, I'm so sorry for the burden I've placed on you, but I trust you to finish what I started. You are stronger than you. No, the recording ended and I wiped tears from my eyes. Donovan was already clicking on the oldest file, dated March 15th, 1978. A younger version of Gran's voice. Mr. Preston, thank you for agreeing to this interview. A man's voice, smooth and confident. Always happy to clear up misconceptions about our environmental practices, Miss Winters. The interview proceeded formally at first, but then Gran asked about specific chemical compounds found in water samples. Preston's tone changed. Off the record, Miss Winters, do you know how much it costs to dispose of these chemicals properly? Millions. The EPA regulations are strangling businesses like mine. So yes, we take shortcuts. Everyone does. The difference is, I'm smart enough not to get caught. This is on record, Mr. Preston. Gran's voice was steel. And I have water and soil samples to prove it. Preston laughed. Publish if you want. I own half the judges in this state. And for the ones I don't own, accidents can happen. Terrible accidents. To reporters, to their families. You understand me? Are you threatening me? Gran demanded. I'm educating you. Drop this story or you'll regret it. That's a promise. The recording ended. Donovan was already copying all the files. This is it. This is everything we need. The admission, the threat, the connection between the companies. I stared at the old tape recorder. He said accidents can happen. And then my parents... We'll make them pay, Donovan promised. I'll have this story ready to publish by morning. Front page of every major news outlet by noon. My phone buzzed. A text from the number Daniel Mercer had given me. Did you get the box? We need to meet. Preston's son knows you have the evidence. He's called in favors with local police. Donovan's place isn't safe. I showed Donovan the message. Could be a trap, he warned. But he's right about one thing. This loft won't be safe for long. What about your contact in the Marshal's service? I asked. The one who helped Gran disappear? Retired years ago. But... His eyes lit up. I have another idea. A safe house I use for sources. Off the grid. We can go there, finish preparing the story, and release it simultaneously to every major news outlet. And Mercer? Tell him to meet us somewhere public tomorrow. If he's legitimate, he'll have federal resources to protect you once the story breaks. I nodded and texted Mercer back. Got it. Meet tomorrow. Portland Public Market, noon. His reply came instantly. Too late. They're coming for you now. As if on cue, we heard heavy footsteps in the hallway outside. Donovan moved quickly, grabbing a go bag from beside his desk and stuffing the recorder and USB drive inside. Fire escape, he said urgently. Now. Tara was already heading for the window. I grabbed Catherine's journal, my grandmother's journal, and followed. As we climbed down the metal staircase into the alley behind the building, I heard the splintering of wood as Donovan's door was broken down. We ran through the labyrinth of Portland's old port, the cool night air burning in my lungs. I thought of Gran, of Catherine, who had lived with this fear for decades, who had raised me, protected me, loved me, all while carrying this burden, alone. I trust you, she had written. As we ducked into Donovan's beat-up Jeep and sped toward his safe house, I made a silent promise to the grandmother I'd known and the one I was just discovering. I would finish what she started, no matter the cost. The truth, so long buried, would finally come to light.